Hey everybody, how's it going? Today I wanted to upload a testimony of Anya Fetcher. She did an amazing job in Maine of delivering great testimony in favor of the right to repair bill, and I really want to just kind of break down that idea that you need to be either a lobbyist or some YouTube famous person in order to show up at one of these hearings. I hope that by watching her speak that many of you who also live in Maine, who are residents of Maine, who believe in right to repair and what it is I do, will show up in favor of the bill as well. Even if you don't have anything to say, just when they see a room and there's 12 or 15 or 20 people who are against the bill, and then there's one or two people that live in Maine that are for the bill, it gives the impression that there is not widespread support for it, rather there's widespread opposition. I believe that that's not the case. I think what the case is that the people who show up are people who are paid to show up against the bill, whereas the people who are for the bill are the people who are paying out of pocket to show up. They're taking sick days to show up. So there is a financial incentive for the people against the bill to show up, whereas there's a financial punishment for the people in favor of the bill to show up. That's the real reason I believe that so few people show up in favor of these bills. I think it also may be to do with the fact that the people who show up against the bill are professionals in testifying against them, so they're more comfortable with it, except for the ones that are making false privacy claims, but that's another thing altogether. Whereas the people who are for the bill may be people that are afraid to speak in public. And I want to show you that you don't have to be YouTube famous or a part of some sort of large lobbying organization to show up. You can simply be someone who is a resident of Maine, who believes in this legislation, who just wants to say why they think it's a good idea. Anya did an amazing job of that. I hope to see her on Tuesday to give more great testimony, and I hope to see many of you on Tuesday if you're residents of Maine, because I think they're going to take you more seriously as their constituent than they are some fast-talking jackass from New York where everybody is a prick. I think that that is very important. So she gave excellent testimony that I'd like to play to all of you. There is a link down below for information on when the next hearing is. I believe it's going to be this Tuesday at 1:30, and I'd absolutely love to see you there so that we can give the assembly people and the senators that took time out of their day to review this bill again, that there is widespread support for it, even if you didn't have a lot of people show up at the first hearing. Even if you don't get to speak, even if you don't want to speak, just having you there so that we could say, these are all the people that support the bill. See? It's not just like one person would do quite a bit. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I hope you learned something, and I'm going to hand it off to Anya.
Good afternoon, Senator Herbig and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Anya Fetcher, and I am the State Director at Environment Maine. Environment Maine is a nonpartisan, citizen-based environmental advocacy organization. We represent thousands of members across the state who share our belief that there is something special about Maine, something that's worth protecting. I'm speaking today in support of LD 1977, or Right to Repair, because we can and should reduce waste by making it easier to repair our own stuff. Let me share a few facts that I feel really underscore the problem and the absurdity of continuing to allow the barriers to repair. E-waste is a growing concern. A UN coalition issued a report last year finding that e-waste is the fastest growing waste stream in the world. The EPA estimated that in 2014, approximately 416,000 mobile phones were disposed or gotten rid of each day in this country. If you break that down per capita, it would mean that Mainers dispose or get rid of over 1,700 cell phones every day. It's estimated that 14% of climate pollution will be related to internet-connected technology over the next 20 years. This is in part because of the extreme resource taxing nature of extraction. Extraction and manufacturing is 80% of a cell phone's climate impact. Companies benefit when we throw out our devices and have to buy new ones, but this throwaway culture is causing havoc for our environment. Producing less stuff, especially electronics, is critical for a livable planet. Now let me tell you why that matters here in Maine. About 2 years ago, a whole set of Mainers downloaded the latest Apple iOS update and soon found their phone was running very slowly. Most probably figured it was just getting old and it was time, once again, for an upgrade, something many of them could not afford. Turns out that the software update Apple created included performance controls which degraded the performance of iPhones containing older and worn-out batteries. After issuing a formal apology, Apple announced that the problem would be solved by replacing the device's battery and offered a discount for the replacements. But here's the problem. There is only one Apple store in the entire state of Maine. One. meaning anyone living outside of the greater Portland area had a very difficult time accessing that discounted battery. It was a mess. The goal of Right to Repair is to remove the most common barrier to reuse and repair, which is the lack of access to repair information, software, and spare parts. LD 1977 would allow independent shops to buy those batteries from Apple and have the service information and access to diagnostic information needed to fix these products. By far the easiest, cheapest way to address our e-waste problems is to keep these products in use when we can. And there are numerous people in our communities who are glad to do the work. We are only asking for a little help to solve this problem for ourselves, with the ingenuity and pluck of Mainers. Frankly, there isn't a good reason why we shouldn't be allowed to fix our own stuff. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this important legislation.
Thank you, Ms. Fletcher. Questions from members of the committee? Representative Moriarty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you've heard, having been present here this afternoon, the real question is the scope of the bill and the intent of the sponsors. My sense is that we'd all be astonished to find out how many things we own that contain digital electronic equipment and/or embedded software. I assume that applies to microwaves, televisions, all sorts of things. Would you agree they're part of the e-waste disposal problem?
I would agree that they're likely. I can't say for sure specifically what products are contributing to it and what are not. But yes, I mean, any sort of electronics that are being thrown away instead of, if they could have been repaired and then bought something new, not only is it adding to the e-waste, but also the extraction of the materials needed to then make those would contribute to the environmental problem.
Okay, I admit this is a totally unfair question, but if we just focused on cell phones and left everything else with embedded software and digital electronics free and clear of the scope of the bill, have we gone far enough?
In my opinion, no. But I think that it would be an important step in the right direction, considering, as I said, the number of cell phones that the U.S., just in the U.S., that people throw out every day is 416,000. Like, that is a very large number. So I think it would be an important step. I do believe that it's important to move into, I'm not writing the legislation and everything, that's not my expertise. Ideally, I would advocate for it to move to more motor vehicles, to farm equipment and whatnot. There are companies such as John Deere, they're a great company, and farmers really appreciate their products, but there are products that they have that if there is a repair, there is a lock on it, and they're not even able to diagnose the problem without calling up John Deere to come out. So I think that is another area that we would advocate to be in there, but I think that the cell phones is a really good start.
Any other questions? No? Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else that wishes to testify in favor of LD 1977?
Robust